The following video is from the SLR Lounge Natural Light Couples Photography Workshop. From planning and choosing your location, to posing and lighting your subjects, to composing and shooting the actual image, and finally to post-producing a final professional product, we cover it all. The workshop includes 2 DVDs with nearly 90 high-definition videos and totals over 8 hours of uninterrupted education. Also included are the 190 raw image exercise files which we'll be producing. You can learn more or purchase this workshop from the SLR Lounge store by clicking the link below in the description. Let's get started with the video. What's up, everybody? This is Post-Production Pye with SLRLounge.com. Welcome to another episode of Constructive Critique, where we will happily critique the photos that you submit to our Constructive Critique forums. Remember that we do give away a $25 gift card to the SLR Lounge store to the selection of the week. And let's go ahead and show you how to get to the CC forums. So simply go to SLRLounge.com, as you see right here. Click on the forums tab right here, which will take you to this page. Go click on Constructive Critique. That takes you right here, and please go ahead and read the sticky on Constructive Critique rules. We do like to make sure that everybody's playing nicely with each other, and well, make sure that you only post 1 image per review request or per critique request, and do include exactly what it is that you want critique, because sometimes it's hard to know exactly where to critique or where to start. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We have this self-portrait by mbridge87, and looks like they got this from Flern, because I did see this image on Flern lately, or this tutorial, which is awesome. Aaron Nace is a good friend of ours, and they do good stuff too, so great little website. But anyway, let's take a look at how this was shot. We have the link to how it was created, actually, if you want to follow that tutorial and do your own version. This was shot on a 5D Mark II on a 85 1.2 at f11 at ISO 100 and at 1/100th of a shutter. He has a speed light off to the side, and it's in a small softbox, fairly high up, and he has a lot of editing done. Now, there's not too much I can critique about this. I would say for the effect that you're going for, which is this Chronicles of Riddick look and my movie poster look, you've done a really good job. And I think you did a repost down here with a re-edit, and that one's even better. I like the additional kind of pores and the roughness that you see in the skin tones, because I think it adds a lot to the effect of that movie poster look. I also like the additional contrast that you've added in this image versus the first one. I think it works a little bit better. As far as from a critique standpoint, you've done everything pretty much right. For the look that you're going for, you've done the correct post-production. It looks good. It doesn't look manipulated, as far as like we don't see clone or heel marks. The lighting was great from the way that you shot it. Light placement was good. Everything is pretty solid about this, and you even have copious amounts of chest hair, which makes everything better. I wish I had that. I have these little, I don't know, these little spotty islands of hair in the middle of skin. I'm sure this is a great visual for y'all that you are digging. But anyway, mbridge87, this is a great submission. Thank you for submitting it. It's an awesome image, and be sure to keep on going with it. This is Portrait Painted Look by Igor, and he said he's had a long break from the forums. We don't really have any information on how this image was shot, so let's go ahead and critique what we do have. Now, with a shot like this, again, we can do a lot more with critiquing if we have, say, a full resolution version, which I don't know if we do. I don't think we do, actually, because with this type of stuff, we're looking at the retouch, and we want to make sure that the retouch is solid and that we don't see like areas of obvious change and so forth. Now, looking off the top of my head, I don't see anything right now, just visually, except for maybe just these little strands of hair that are going over the shirt and kind of over the skin over here. I would kind of clean those up. I would look into crosshairs, flyaways. Looks like we do have a little bit of flyaways out here on the left and right sides, and those are kind of the areas that I would clean up. And also, I might do a little bit of hair shaping with this kind of a shot. We're basically shaping the backside of the hair to kind of give it a slightly more round look, because it does look like there's a little bump here. As far as how the shot was taken, well, the lighting is awesome. I love the way that the light looks. Looks like you have a main light above that's lighting down. You have some sort of fill below that's kind of catching some of the light and putting it back in. It looks great. I love the way it looks. I love the model's expression. The one thing that's kind of throwing it off for me is the background a little bit, mainly because we have this red marking over here on the left side. And that kind of draws a lot of attention to it. I'm not sure if that was intended to be part of the composition, but it draws attention away from this beautiful portrait of our subject here. And so it'd be awesome if the background was just, say, neutral. Say it was just these lines going across, but there wasn't the kind of that marking there, the graffiti there on the wall. Otherwise, I think it's an awesome job. I think you did a great job also with the eyes. It looks like they're retouched a bit, but we haven't gone too far with them. So good job, Igor, and thanks for your submission. Let's go to this next one. We have Eric Santos Concert, and I absolutely dig this shot. This was by Al Green. It was taken at 1/60 of a second, f5.6 at ISO 800, 35 millimeters on a 28-200 lens. Looks like you used the Lightroom preset system, the SLR Lounge preset system, and you used the 40B Bright Fade Color Filmic. I dig the look. I love everything about this shot. Let's go ahead and click and open it up so we can see it larger. I like the way it was processed. I like the way it was shot. You set your camera white balance exactly where it should be, where we have this nice bit of warmth here, but it sends all these other lights that are more blue tone into that blue or that dark blue look. It looks absolutely great from this environmental kind of concert portrait type shot. I dig seeing the people all around too. It really sets the environment for these types of concert photos. I feel like when I see concert, I love seeing the concert photos with the, you know, the performer up on stage and they're just solo going crazy and stuff like that. But with those kind of shots, you don't really have any, I don't know, sense of presence of what's going on, because they could be doing that and nobody could be in the audience, or it could be to a full stadium. You really don't know that. And I love having these people in the image because it kind of lends to that. Now, I don't know if this is the kind of concert or the kind of place where people are going to be like, you know, all dancing with their hands up and so forth. But if he did have songs that were kind of like that, I would look for one of those songs where I could get kind of like this action in the shot where we have all the people in the foreground with their arms up, and you're kind of getting this peep through shot where you're seeing him on stage performing and all this stuff is going around in the foreground or going on in the foreground. As is, I love the shot. I love the way that you process it. I think it looks absolutely great. From a compositional standpoint, the only thing that I think might be detracting a little bit is we do have this blue camcorder up to the right, which because there is blue on that camcorder, we do visually see it. So maybe either black it out or just crop in so we don't see that person. Also, the guy on this side, this guy right here, he's just a little bit tall in the frame. There's not really too much you can do that. You might be able to move. If you pushed him off to the left side of the frame, it would be a little bit more subtle. But I know from the positioning that you're at right now, it'd be hard to get a different look where you could see the performer as good as you do here. So that's kind of just comes with the territory. But you know, if you can try to kind of make the foregrounds a little bit more balanced, I guess, if possible. All right, great job though. This is an awesome shot and I love it. It actually is very sharp too for being 1/60 of a second. So good job hand holding. Looks like you captured him in that kind of perfect moment where he's still too. So good job. All right, let's go to this one. This is Mexico Sunset by Alan Sy. All right, so he's planning to print this as a 30x40. And you know, I love shots like this because it breaks all the rules, but to me this totally works. Okay, so we have these lines in this shot. We have a line, the horizon line is kind of this diagonal slant. The sidewalk is kind of following that line and then coming and kind of cross or this little I don't know if that's it's not quite perpendicular, but we have this nice cross line that we have these diagonals coming out on this side too, and also following the sun. And the way that the sun kind of starts this whole point off and it draws down, it just overall the composition works for me. I know a lot of people might look at this and be like, oh, that's completely wrong. This should be straightened out. But to be honest, I'll bet that if you did straighten this out, it's going to lose a lot of the interest. And actually, I think I saw this a while back and someone did actually correct it. Maybe not. Oh yeah, there it is. Q photo. He corrected the horizon line. And with this corrected, to me, I've lost all the interest in the shot. What makes it cool is that perspective shift, is that what we're seeing here. And it also has great color. We have awesome blues, great greens. We have this blue in the ocean, or sorry, in this swimming pool that kind of mimics the ocean and the sky. And it absolutely just works from the tonality of the image to the composition to everything. And I would love to see this as a big 30x40. I think it's going to look awesome. So again, this is just one of those reminders that it's okay to break the rules. So long as you're doing it for a specific reason, break the rules. Know the rules and know when you can break them. All right, awesome job. And I wonder if there's people in here. I wonder what they're doing in the hot tub. Looks like there's people down there. All right, let's go on to Found Mini. This is by M. Stanfanarel. Okay, this was shot on a Nikon D90 at 50 millimeters or on a 50mm prime at f1.8, ISO 100 at 1/250th of a second, natural light only. I think this is a really cute portrait, first of all. I like the focus and I like that, you know, everything else is kind of very soft in the background. That 1.8 does a great job of really crushing the background and making anything that would be distracting the background kind of not so distracting. And we still have some kind of color variation in the background from this blue to the green to the brown, which makes it a little bit busy, but overall it's still a nice shot and it's a great portrait. Now there's a couple things that I would do differently. From the way that this was shot, if this is a completely candid moment, then there's really not too much you could do, but if it is a pose shot, I'd take a moment to just kind of flatten out the flyaways in the back. I'd take a moment to bring this hair forward, leave some in the back and not leave it on the shoulder here, as well as to cover up this little bit of white that's showing up. Like I don't know if that's an undershirt or what that is. But doing these things will help quite a bit. Also adding a little bit of a fill light if possible via reflector just to get a stronger catch light in the eyes. Overall, the light's actually pretty solid and it's filling really nicely in the face, but we don't have any catch light. So if you wanted to add some catch light, you could do that by getting a little bit of a reflector fill or something into there. From a post-production standpoint, I'd say it's a little bit on the green side. I'm seeing it on a screen that actually has a little bit of a pink bias, and even on my screen it looks a little bit too green. So I would kind of maybe tone it back a little bit, go for a little bit more neutral of a color, unless that's stylistically what you're going for. But these are the things I kind of notice. And so from a candid, it's great. I love this shot. You know, if this is just a shot of your sister or a family member, this looks awesome, and I think you should keep doing it. From a posed portrait standpoint, I think you have a little bit of stuff that you could do to kind of help and improve that. All right, great job. Let's go on now to black and white portrait. This is from Arturo, and this is shot on a 7D, 1/100th of a second, f4.5, ISO 320, 55 millimeters on a 17 to 55 lens. And let's go ahead and see. This was used, sorry, I'm going to click right here so I can read this a little bit easier. This is a home-built softbox with 2 CFL bulbs on our left and right of the photo. So 430 EX2 mounted high above her head in the back. Let's take a look at the shot, and I dig this. I think it's a great use of lighting. I think you've done a really nice job, and I love just playing around with lights. You know, when you're getting into photography, it's really important just to try things out. Now, from a lighting standpoint, I'd say that there's a little bit of improvement that we could have on this, and generally, you know, this kind of edge lighting where you have this a little bit of rim lighting that's kind of wrapping onto the face a bit. Typically, we're not doing it on these types of soft children's portraits. Usually, we're using something like that for a more edgy look. It creates a much more edgy vibe to the photo. Say if we're doing like, you know, kind of an edgy athlete shot in the studio, or we're doing something that just has a little bit more grit to it. That's when we typically would use that. Otherwise, I'd want to keep that light kind of just strictly on the back of the hair, on the top of the hair, on the shoulder, and not so much crossing into the face over there. Now on the right side, we have a nice soft light that you have placed there, and what I would do is just shift that light a little bit so you get a little bit more Rembrandt lighting. That means that the light's crossing over the nose, and you're getting a nice highlight right there from the main light. So you get a little bit more light wrap. You're gonna do that just by bringing that light forward a little bit towards the camera, and everything else I really dig in this. I think you could also do with a little bit of a underfill just to kind of bring some light and kick it back up into the face as well. But otherwise, it's really nice. I love that you're playing around with these kind of portraits and lighting with your own daughter. And our family members make the best subjects, don't they? All right, so great job. I like the processing as well. And let's go on to our next little image here. This is shot by QPhoto, and he says, I like the lines on the photo, always looking for new points of view. This was on a Canon 7D, 1/500th of a second at f8, ISO 400, and 25 millimeter on his 18 to 55 millimeter lens. I love lines too, QPhoto. I absolutely dig lines, and shots like this are exactly why, because it's just perfect. It looks awesome. I love the way that the sky, I mean, the sky is very clean, and that I think adds a lot to the shot. So I don't know if you did a shutter drag or what you did with this. You could have done a shutter drag, maybe 30 seconds to get the sky to kind of, or get the clouds to lose their definition, or maybe it was just that clear. So I'm not sure on that. Actually, no, I do know, because you said it's 1/500th of a second. So this wasn't a shutter drag. All right, so we know that this was handheld, not on a, well, it could have been on a tripod, but it wasn't a long shutter. Okay, so the thing that makes this shot awesome is just these lines. We have these great diagonal lines, and if you notice, what also makes it great is that you're following a couple different rules here. Not only we have these leading lines that are bringing us into the composition, we have kind of these perpendicular and diagonal lines, but we also have triangles. So if you look at this, we have one triangle here, we have one triangle here, and these are all lending to the overall interest in the shot. We have triangles over here. Triangles, these kind of shapes are very interesting to look at. So if you look at this image and you're like, I love the lines, there's actually very specific compositional reasons why. You've kept the diagonal on this 45-degree angle, which leads in from the edge of the frame. We go into it, we have triangles all over, we have great additional kind of lines that are against the main lines. And on top of that, you've done a great job with the post-production. I love these types of images in black and white. I think they work out really well. Now, one suggestion that I have, QPhoto, is that when I see these kind of scenes, and I do this kind of stuff all the time for my own studio, my own office, is I'll shoot a few of these and I'll put together these like little kind of triptych canvas displays where we have different components of these lines and shown in different ways next to each other. So this is kind of the perfect image for that. And when I see it, I think of these types of display formats, you know, that triptych or that whatever you want to do, a diptych, triptych, quad tick. I don't know how many ticks they go up to, but either way, this looks awesome. A great job with your shot, QPhoto, and keep on submitting. Let's go on to our final shot. This is 1,000 steps in Laguna, and I was about to say this looks like Laguna Beach, and it is titled Laguna, so obviously it is. This is from Al Green, and Al Green, you're the winner of this week's $25 gift certificate because this is an awesome shot. Now, not to say that this is perfect, but you know what? This is an amazing photo and you've done a great job in the setup and everything. Let's go ahead and take a look at how this was shot, by the way, before we skip over to this. It's at 1/200 of a second at f8 ISO 100 on a 26mm, or sorry, on a 16-35 at 26mm. Now, taking a look at the image, there's a couple things that I would recommend. One, from the shutter speed, just know, and this is okay if you're using it as part of the composition, but just know that at 1/200 of a second, you are going to be having some motion in the shot. And you can see that basically by looking at the limbs. Limbs that are more quickly moving, they're going to show some motion in them. So if you do want that perfectly still motion, you need to go up to about 1/500 of a second for a shot like this. Now, you might be keeping it at 1/200 of a second because you're using off-camera lights. It doesn't necessarily look like we have a lot of off-camera lighting, but if that were, say, a restriction of the shutter speed so that your camera can sync, like say with a Pocket Wizard, so that the sync speed can actually work, then you do have that. But otherwise, I'd probably bump it up a little bit. So bring the aperture down a little bit, or bring your ISO up one click, go up to 1/500 of a second so you get perfectly still motion, unless that's part of the shot. You know, I do like taking these kind of shots with a bit of motion sometimes in kind of the limbs because it adds to the shot as well. But we do have a little bit of, we see some people that are kind of in the motion of moving up and down, they get a little more blurred, like him and kind of like her. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. From a compositional standpoint, I love the way that you crop this. It works incredibly well as this long panoramic crop. The only thing is this is tough because I shoot in Laguna all the time and there's a lot of these dirty beaches, and it's tough because cleaning them is not really necessarily an option. But what you can do is just move the composition a little bit. If your subjects don't mind having their feet a little bit in the water, what I would do is just push them back down towards the water line a little bit. That way they step into this kind of blue area where it's all soft and smooth sand, and it kind of removes all the distractions of these kind of potholes in the sand, this little branch right here, and all the seaweed that's been kind of accumulating there. So that's one little option that you could do to kind of clean up the foreground, other than just basically getting out a rake and cleaning it up yourself, which isn't really an option. All right, so other than that, I think it's a great job. From a post-production standpoint, this is what I would say, is that we're lifting a little bit too much of the shadows. You have this kind of flattened HDR look in this, and it looks good, but I would say that if we added back just a little bit more shadow, it's gonna have a much more natural look. And I know you're trying to fill the shadow side of the faces, but the thing is, if we fill too much, then we get this kind of flattened HDR-ish look, which I'm typically more of a fan of, just kind of that more natural look. Everything else is awesome. I love that you did this kind of shot with this big group out there. I know that that's extremely challenging, and it's a very tough thing to pull off. So that's why you're getting the gift certificate or the gift card. All right, so thanks to this week's submissions. Hopefully we'll see you guys all in the forums. My name is Pye, and I'll see you all in the next video.